Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Periods. At those designated times, members of the public wishing to speak shall enable their audio and state their name for the record. When multiple members of the public wish to speak, the clerk will determine the order of speakers and announce their names accordingly. To ensure proper conduct, the board reserves the right to mute the audio and video of any member of the public violating generally accepted principles and decorum of official public meetings. We do not have any virtual or in-person public comment.
All right, thank you. Consent items.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, thank you. Discussion items. Consider approval of 50% cost share grant amendment in the amount of $48,766.99 for Cordova Hallwood. Kyle.
Chair Messick, members of the board. The first item here is we had an approved grant to do the head wall and automated structure. And when at construction, they noticed that they needed to extend some head walls to properly seal. And the change order here is to help with that 50% cost share.
All right, any questions from the directors? Anyone from the audience?
Are we requiring the people involved with these grants to be here? Representative?
Is there anyone from Cordova or Hallwood here?
Not for the amendment.
Not for the amendment. They were here for the original.
For the original grant.
Anyone from the public? Would anybody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Kyle, just stay put and we're on to the next item. Consider approval of 50% cost share grant in the amount of $370,113 for a new chlorine contract, tank engineering and construction costs for Camptonville Community Service District.
So it was found, an evaluation was completed on the water system, determination was made to meet the existing standards. This tank needed to be replaced due to being inadequately sized and too old to update or repair. It was also found that the pertinent structures, piping, valves, et cetera, needed to also be reconstructed. They had a grant provided by DWR for $454,116. Due to time and construction costs escalated, the construction costs have expanded to the low bid of $649,840. And they've already expended with design a little over $115,000. So to cover the difference because of the construction cost escalations, they're asking today for $370,000 to get this work done. And the reason we're bringing it before the board today is that they have to accept the low bid by May 23rd, so we couldn't push it to the pod. And we do have representatives.
You do have a rep here?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we have the rep?
Yeah.
Say hello.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Paul Rose. I'm a consultant with Burdick and Company, working with Human Water Agency, and we are supporting Camptonville Community Services District in this application. As Kyle explained in the scope of work, that as you know, with construction projects, once the engineer's estimate is in, you go to DWR, they get the funding. It's usually at least a year or more before construction begins, and of course, costs have escalated. So Camptonville got the maximum that DWR was allowing for the grant, and between that shift in time, there was quite a escalation in costs. This is a compliance issue for them. Their contact tank, they are surface water system. So their contact tank is critical to achieving compliance for chlorine contact. And that tank is very old and beyond its life of repair or maintenance. So I don't believe they have a compliance order on that from their jurisdiction, but it is something that is critical to their infrastructure.
Through the chair. Reason we wanted somebody from each one of these, if you're coming for $370,000, at least you can do is show up.
I agree.
Say thanks.
And we're happy to be here.
Yes.
We have Richard Descartes is the board. I'm not sure if he's the president, but he's here as well from Camptonville.
Okay, because Camptonville has been blowing them away. They've actually, you're moving and shaking, something you haven't been able to do in the past 20 years, I know of.
Thank you. And I would like to thank the board for their ongoing support for the last 3 or 4 decades. You have both supported the area with water for fire protection. You've been very supportive in multiple grants over the last, 10, 15 years. And we really appreciate you doing this so that the folks in the area can have. Thank you.
Through the chair again, I've known Kathy for a long time, and without her, this wouldn't have happened. She's a very energetic individual, and we'd like to say thanks for all her effort, and that's why we like to see people here. Thank you.
Charlie?
When we originally passed the agency back in '59, the Hills supported it. The people on the valley floor were interested in flood protection, primarily in water development. Now we're able to help the people in the hills, both in fire protection and in water development. I would so move that we accept their motion.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any other comments or public input? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you. Next item, consider approval to amend Reclamation District, is that 2103's grant for the Grasshopper Slough certification. Sammy.
Hi, good morning, Chairman Messick, members of the board. Thank you for having me. Sammy Null, Flood Risk Reduction Manager for Yuba-Sutter. So this item is to potentially amend, looking for your approval to amend our Reclamation District 2103's existing grant for the Grasshopper Slough certification repairs project, amending it for both increase in cost of $956, as well as for time for an additional year. So the grant would end in next June 30th, 2026. The amendment for funding is primarily because there were some environmental issues that were identified during the project, and the existing funding was used to secure necessary environmental permits. And so they went out to bid, and so the estimated cost increase would be $639,000, just short of $640,000.
All right, any questions?
Through the chair.
Yes.
So the environmental has been completed now and there's no more blocks, or are we pouring more money into environmental?
I have Tom Engler who could answer any of the specific questions.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that this isn't just going to be a stepping stone of another grant if the environmental obligations can't be overcome if we're just pouring money into it.
Yeah, thank you. Tom Engler, MBK Engineers. I'm the district engineer for Reclamation District 2103. We have completed all the environmental documents. We have all the permits in hand. The only outstanding environmental item is to purchase mitigation credits. So that's included in the costs of this grant. So we would purchase mitigation credits. we'll likely have to rebid the project since it's been a few years since we originally bid it, and there's additional work added in this phase, so we'll likely have to rebid the project.
And also too, so this current amount, we're probably gonna have to revisit it again when it gets rebid, or no?
We shouldn't. We hope to have adequate contingency in there. We've seen a lot of recent construction cost increases. So when I went through this, I did add a lot of extra contingency for those cost increases we've been seeing on other projects in the last year or so. It's been a very difficult bidding market.
Thank you.
So when you originally did the project, what was the cost of the actual bidding, the physical project a couple years ago when you bid it?
I would have to look back at my notes, but the original grant amount would have covered it. We were hoping to avoid some of these environmental issues. We weren't. Right now, we've got $140-something thousand to mitigate it a 2-to-1 ratio for 0.13 acres of impacts. So it's $145,000 is buying less, about a quarter of an acre of mitigation ground. So that in and of itself, 5 years ago when this started, was probably $30,000 an acre. Now it's $145,000 for a quarter acres. Those are the types of cost increases we've been in.
And so it's a state regulation that caused you to have to buy that quarter acre, or? Okay. And then the quarter acre price increases because they were aware of your need for it?
The mitigation, compensatory mitigation is they develop offsite mitigation banks. They are few and far between. There's very few with available credits right now in the state of California. So because of the supply and demand issues, the supply is not there, the demand's still high, the costs have been going through the roof. We've been seeing 15 to 20% increases on an annual basis.
Tom, can you just, clarify what species we're mitigating?
These are for wetland and riparian impacts. We are taking out some trees that are growing out of the toe of the channel that we need to place some rocks. So we have to remove trees, which is considered riparian corridor. Plus we're working below the ordinary high water mark. So we have impacts to waters of the state and the US.
So in a more streamlined world, this would have cost $300,000, but now it's going to cost $900,000?
Correct.
And that's purely because of a couple of trees?
A few trees and wetland impacts, yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? Anyone from the public? Entertain a motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. Sammy, you're doing the next one as well, huh? Consider approval of a grant for the Three Rivers Levee Improvement Authority, Trillia, of $1,165,000 for the Horseshoe Levee Basin Problem Identification Report Project.
Thank you. Once again, Sammy Nall, Flood Risk Reduction Manager for Yuba-Water. And so this project really is an exploration project to better understand the health of the Horseshoe Levee area in South Yuba County. And the project will help identify any potential problems, do some geotechnical explorations, and better understand that project for future projects that might improve that levee.
Any questions from the board?
I have one, John.
Okay.
That, just so we're all oriented, that's the levee between Dry Creek and the Interceptor Canal, and
Yes.
That's where we're talking about.
Yes.
Just west of 40 Mile Road.
I believe so, yes.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Anyone from the public wish to speak on it? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, next item. Receive the annual dam safety update by Tim Traum.
Before we start, can I suggest we send a copy of the safety manuals to Orville. Save him some trouble.
All right. Morning, Board of Directors. Thanks for having me here this morning. My name is Tim Turung. I'm the dam safety engineer for the agency. Glad to be here to present the update regarding the dam safety program over the past year. Lots of going on, lots have been done, and lots to do. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So this is just a fun little depiction of the primary benefits of the agency. So we have the hydroelectric generation, we have recreation, fish enhancements, water supply. But the primary reason, I guess everybody knows, but the primary reason the agency was built was for flood risk reduction that's been provided by the dams. So the agenda for today will be for me to review the Part 12D inspection, and I'll go over what that is, the results of those inspections, dam safety projects that have been done in the last year or so, plus future projects as planned, and a quick overview of the where we're at in regards to our emergency preparedness program. Okay, so what is the Part 12D inspection? So every year we do inspections, but that's rated by our regulators. We have the annual Division of Safety of Dams inspection by the state. We have the annual Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, inspection. We also do our own internal inspections. This is a special inspection that's required by FERC, where we, as a licensee, have to hire an independent consultant, a third-party person or team, to come out and inspect our dams, facilities, and an entire project. It occurs every 5 years. So, and it's called the Part 12D inspection because it's codified in the Code of Federal Regulations. It's Title 18, Part 12, Subpart D, hence Part 12D. It's shown there in the picture. And the picture right there is us looking at the spillway during that inspection. So what's special about this past Part 12D inspection compared to others is that recently the FERC changed how all licensees do this Part 12 inspection. So just instead of the previous inspection, now they are categorizing each Part 12 as either a comprehensive or a periodic inspection. And those alternate every 5 years. So 1 year you may have a comprehensive, the other year you may have the next 5 year following you have a periodic. And the difference is that, as the term implies, a comprehensive, the independent consultant is looking at everything. Whereas a periodic, it's very scaled back, and it's very similar to kind of an annual inspection, but done by that third-party consultant. For this past year, we did a comprehensive. Bullets was tapped to conduct a comprehensive assessment. Outhouse and log cabin were periodic assessments, so lesser in scope. So with that said, one of the things we did for the periodic inspection for log cabin and outhouse, we conducted it's just a regular inspection, on-site inspection, but we also did a full tunnel scan, LiDAR scan of the entire tunnel for both diversion dams. It's an important milestone because this is the first time that those tunnels have been inspected fully in over a quarter of a century. Last time we did it was in 1999. So good to have that information. Comprehensive assessment. So this is the big one. We received the notice 18 months ago. So a year and a half ago is when we kind of began that, but in actuality, we started working on that beforehand. It's interesting because based on some feedback from licensees to FERC, the FERC is considering extending that initial notification out to 2 years, 24 months. because many licensees were asking for more time to do this inspection. That's how big it is and how resource intensive it is. So the IC did a deep dive of the various documentations. It looked back to the design basis and all the analysis and the records that we have on the project. We did a site inspection. We conducted a probable failure mode analysis. And the big difference between this Part 12 and others is this level 2 risk assessment. So the FERC is moving towards looking at risks associated with the project instead of just failures or failure categories as they have in the past. And how they're doing that by moving away from deterministic to probabilistic approaches. And I say this not only to make myself sound smarter, but to also try to inform the board of really the scale of what that really entails. Because in the past, when you look at deterministic, it's looking at a single point. So you consider the maximum flood, you consider the maximum earthquake. That's your value when you're looking at a failure. Whereas in the probabilistic world, those points are just a probability, a single return period, a 1,000-year flood, a 1,000-year earthquake. But we're considering failure and events beyond those. So we consider all the range and spectrum of probability. So that's a lot of work and a lot of data that needs to go into that. Hence, the amount of resource that's taken to do this work. And just for comparison, so for this assessment, for just bullards alone, this year it's over $1 million to this assessment. Whereas last time we did it in 2020, for all 3 dams combined, it was about 200,000. So that's the amount of work that we've put into this work. That's a new requirement at FERC, yes. Thank you. Okay, so results. What did we get out of the assessment? So log cabin and outhouse, this is the periodic assessment. The independent consultants stated in the report, the project is judged as being suitable for continued safe and reliable operations. So project's good for log cabin and outhouse. There were a few recommendations, minor recommendations that we're going to follow up, but I don't plan to go into details here. If you would like more information on that, I can certainly set up a closed session to discuss those details.
Can I ask a question? Is in the dam on the left, is that the low water outlet open?
Yes, it is. Actually,
it's same.
Actually, I take that back. I don't recall it for this picture, actually. I want to say it was because I think we took it. I took this picture during our annual testing, so I think it was, but I have to go back and look at the dates for this. Usually when it flows like this and the low level outlet is open, you can't even see it because there's so much water. So bollards. So for bollards, as part of that process, we conducted the probable failure mode analysis. This is where a bunch of experts sit in the room and talk about all the ways the dams can fail, which as the dam safety engineer is one of the most harrowing experience of my career, where all the experts talk about how your dam is going to fail. We postulated 209, we brainstormed 209 different failure modes, which is a lot. All those 209, 25 were considered credible, and 22 were considered a damaged state scenario to be carried forward through that risk assessment process. And you can see that chart there, just the cumulative, all the categories associated with the different failure modes.
What's a tall one? Clearly negligible?
Clearly negligible, yes. So that's when deemed that the probability is so low that it's negligible.
Okay.
There's also a last category ruled out where it's just improbable.
Okay. Didn't sound good for us.
So, yeah. So this slide is one slide that I was debating whether to present because there's a lot of information on this slide alone. This chart is complicated, but I thought it was important to show the board this chart because it really is the culmination of that whole year and a half long process. So for risk is defined as the probability times the consequence of that failure. So on the chart here, the y-axis is the likelihood of failure or the probability. And one thing to note is that each of those like horizontal lines there in the scale of order of magnitude. So this is not 1, 2, 3. This is 10, hundreds, thousands, 100,000, million. This is a 1,000,000-year return period. Can you think, for reference, we look at the levees here around the Marysville and Yuba City. They've recently been designed to a 200-year flood. We're talking about 100,000-year floods here. So that gives you a little perspective on the kind of the likelihood of these failures. And then the x-axis is the consequence of the failure itself. Bollards being what it is, the consequence is massive, as we're all aware. So how do you read this chart is that all these circles and triangles, they're the different failure modes that we've hypothesized, plotted based on their likelihood of failure and the consequence. And then we add up all those risks, and we get to that dot and that red box. That red box is our total project risk. And what the industry has defined is that you want to, that top, let me take a step back, that top dashed line there is the tolerable societal risk line. So you want to be below that line. As you can see here, our total project risk is slightly above that line. What does that mean for us? That means that FERC is going to be looking for us to take actions in the coming years to try to reduce that risk. So we have some work to do that. So we can reduce that risk by getting more information to decrease the likelihood of failure or to reduce the consequence of that failure. So different ways you can do that.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
Does the ARC spillway do anything to help with that risk?
The ARC spillway helps little.
Okay.
Because, again, we're looking at storms beyond the PMF. And again, because it's a cumulative stuff, the top three, those three failure modes that I have pointed out there, they contribute to like 85% of the risk score. So we can reduce those three risks with those PFMs, and we'll reduce our total project risk.
Could you detail the three risks just briefly?
I can do that in closed session. That's considered critical energy infrastructure information. And I'm not supposed to share that in a public session, but I'm more than happy to present a more detailed analysis and information on the information.
Through the chair, I'd like to also add that to a closed session in the near future.
Okay. So conclusion for bollards, we had 18 formal recommendations from the independent consultant. However, the bottom line is that they also judge the project to be safe for continued operation. And so they said that we do a great job. We're very committed, and they're impressed with our commitment and the operator's knowledge of the project. But definitely more work to do to follow up on that. All right, so moving forward, dam safety projects. We completed an upgrade to our uplift pressure gauge inside the dam, inside the bullards. So prior to the upgrade, the operators are going out there once a week to read the uplift gauges. We recently installed some wireless gauges that can connect back to our SCADA system, so we can review the water pressure under the dam in real time now. So that's really great. We completed some repairs on the road on the crest of the dam itself. Several of the old patches were failing. We had some various cracks historically, so we've repaired those spalls and sealed the cracks. Road was really great. It should be open this week or last week, at the end of last week. And then, of course, we have lots of follow-up work to do following the recommendations from the inspectors, analysis to do, looking at the various events, loading events, and potential instrumentation upgrade as well. Spillway repair. This is another big project that's looming on the horizon. When we did spillway repair project on Joint 3-4 a few years ago, we identified a defect in the spillway. Right now, we're reviewing our options about what's the best way to approach the remediation of that defect. So to be determined, we've sat down with our consultant a few times to discuss all their options and the best way to approach this without the repair making it worse, right? We're trying to get the best, find out what the best repair option is for us. Yeah, thanks, Willie. This is not a foundational issue. The defect is that, we found some reinforcements and rebars that were corroded just through the wear, normal use of the project. So we're trying to either determine whether to replace those reinforcements with rebar, or maybe there's some places we don't need to replace them because we have great support, or the thickness of the concrete is massive and we don't need to do that work. So trying to determine the exact scope of that repair itself. Right cut slope clear. This is an issue that's happened since the start of the project. We on the right side of the spillway wall there, we have some debris that's continues to fall down. So we're looking at trying to do a larger mitigation of that debris, so we don't all that rock doesn't damage the spillway when it falls in. Access for the gate, for the spill gates themselves. Currently, the operators and the maintenance crew have to cross the road when they do work on their gates, or they have to cross the road again when they go from gate to gate. So to try to improve personnel safety, we plan to install some platforms between the gates so that they don't have to worry about vehicles and when they're trying to do their work. Gate 1 seal replacement, so we're planning to replace the side seals of spill gate 1 next year. We're, I think, about 60% designed for that right now. New instrumentation at Lake Francis, trying to install some piezometers and downstream weirs to better monitor seepage. And over the next year or so, we need to update our inundation maps for the 3 dams. FERC has recently accepted the probable maximum flood for outhouse and log cabins, so those maps need to be updated, as well as bullard maps that needs to be reviewed and updated as well too. The inundation maps kind of leads us into my last topic, which is emergency preparedness. So as part of emergency preparedness, we have an emergency action plan documented with inundation maps. So those maps will be updated in our EAP. Along with that, we have a tabletop exercise for our EAP on July 23rd and a functional exercise on August 20th. And this exercise is a big exercise. We are coordinating with all the local emergency responders, the sheriff, police, National Weather Service, Cal OES, all the various people all the various organizations that may help us respond. We've set out the invites, and they are more than welcome to attend. We want them to attend so that we can have that communication coordination. And then on solve, I want to just kind of make the board aware that we are continuing working on our notification system, which we recently implemented through OnSolve. This system allows us to mass notify, I guess the organizations and people that we want to or need to, instead of just making those physical calls down a phone tree, which takes over half an hour. This will allow us to do a mass notification and simultaneously to greatly reduce the response time. And that is it for my presentations. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from the directors?
I have a couple. Tim, first of all, you have an incredible responsibility, and I always feel confident that when you come in and give your reports, that you take that responsibility very seriously. And I can't imagine what it would be like to sit with 22 of your peers and be reviewed, and then when it's such an incredible responsibility to have that review, that makes us feel comfortable too, that we got good ratings from all them. One thing I'm just curious about is since the dam was designed and built until now, how has seismic design changed, and what, has that had any effect, or will it in the future?
I don't know if seismic design has changed. I think the knowledge we have on our site and information that goes into the design has increased. So, as the geologists do more studies and understand the site-specific information, it changes our design, their, proposed design criteria. For example, I think that when the dam was originally built, they had a seismic design criteria of, I want to say it was like 0.15 G, which is the force of gravity. So the acceleration of the dam was less. Our current criteria is, I think, is a 0.2 G from DSOD. And there are various, seismic criteria that we need to follow. And even with the recent recommendations from the Part 12, the IC recommended that we review potential site-specific information, looking at the ground and the composition of the ground to get a better value for what should be used for our dam. Yeah, I guess the information, we've gained more information to better determine what value and response that the dam should have based on that.
So it sounds like it hasn't really raised new concerns, but maybe actually made us more comfortable with the design. Is that accurate, or?
Yeah, in some ways, yes. I mean, we have an increased the PGA's the peak ground acceleration has increased, but we still show the dam is stable. So it shows that when they designed it back in 1960s, they had designed it conservatively, and we're still meeting those seismic criteria at the moment.
Great.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Through the chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tim, I do thank you. I like to sleep at night, so that makes me feel a lot better. But did any of our upcoming projects, were any of them considered when you guys were doing this inspection, like the pinstock and anchors and all that stuff too? Did that affect your 5-year inspection?
Some of the projects were considered. However, they're looking at the project with a snapshot in time. So they're not considered in that those failure modes are looking at now. So the report, some of the recommendation report considers the benefits of upcoming projects we have. But again, because of some of either the consequence of those failures or just the return period for these very low likelihood events that our current projects don't really meet those requirements, because even with ARC spillway, we designed the ARC spillway for our current probable maximum flood, but we're looking at beyond that event. So the ARC spillway, well, it does provide benefits in terms of operation and some benefits for the PMF. Based on the criteria that FERC is using to evaluate these risks, it's not there.
Thank you. I look forward to hearing more detail in the future.
I'm always excited when I hear about how we spent $1 million for them to tell us that we're doing all right. I guess my curiosity is it's garbage in, garbage out with the 100,000-year storm or the 100,000-year earthquake. Do they get to decide what silly scenarios they create, or did you guys in the room come up with absurd scenarios that created our risk factor being higher? Where did the negligible, unlikely events that cause catastrophic failure create that math?
Yeah, so it was, I think in one of my slides, there's a picture of all of us sitting in that room. It's the team effort, so we all provided our inputs on these probabilities. And it's not just the probability of the event itself, it's the probability of the chain of events that will lead to that failure. So it's not just the flood, or it's not just the earthquake, it's the earthquake, what with the probability of
So if we created those events, then if we'd hired different people, we would have created less liability for ourselves by creating less outrageous events?
I'm not following, sorry.
Sure, so the chance...
I'll help you with this. So there's a process, the Part 12D process requires us to hire third-party engineers and then get with, FERC and other regulators and sit in the room and talk about the scenario. The actual process is defined by FERC. We don't have the option to hire a third-party engineer and say, hey, we would like you to have the criteria be a 1 in 100-year event. We can't do that. They have to independently go through the FERC required process. So it's one of the regulations that where FERC, our regulator, requires us to hire someone, and we don't define the scope of work. Unlike, let's say, painting our building. We define we want to paint it blue and we want it to be this quality of paint, and they go do it. This scenario is you have to hire a qualified group, Schnabel, they're here today, and they have to follow this scope of work that we identify. We're FERC and we identify you, but you don't get to identify a scope of work. So I just want to be clear, that's where those probabilities come from.
And there's some appraisers that come in high and there's some appraisers that come in low. And so my only point is that if we're creating our own liability, then it would seem that somebody who was less imaginative about million-year floods would be more useful than someone who had a very active imagination.
That's a good point. So one thing I didn't mention is that before we went through that room and did that risk assessment, I mentioned there were a lot of data gathering and a lot of analysis was conducted. So prior to that, sitting in the room, we did a hydraulic hazard analysis, we did a seismic hazard analysis, and we did a consequence analysis. And these analyses, based on the data that we have on the history of the project and the region, it will plot a risk curve. So it will show us, based on the data we have on the historical hydrology of the project, if a 200,000 flood comes in, this is where it plots on that chart, on that hydraulic hazard analysis that they conducted. So we would use that value or to determine the risk. So if we may say, all right, a 100-year flood is not going to fail the dam. What flood would fail a dam? 1,000-year flood? Probably not. Because the PMF is about, I think, an 1,800-year flood. So I think we think that the dam is not going to fail at an 1,800-year flood. 10,000-year flood is going to fail the dam. 100,000. So we use those. So it's these experts who sit in the room, like what type of flood would likely cause that, and it's not just the flood itself. Again, it's all the chain of events. We have to scour the bottom of the toe of the dam. What's the likelihood of the toe scouring? What's the likelihood of there being rock blocks to move the dam? So it's all these things that puts us at these very low numbers. So there are, I guess, long story short, there are analytical values and data to back up those risks and probabilities.
Through the chair. Yep. Tim, thank you very much for one of the most enthusiastic, knowledgeable presentations I've ever heard. You're asked a question and you got the answer when you finish. Thank you very much for your.
Any other comments?
I'd like to make a couple comments if I can.
Go ahead.
Just a couple more. When you guys do the tabletop and the operational exercise, could you include us just so we know what's going to happen if something like this was to occur with us as your board? Just, I mean, even if it's just advisory or whatever. So.
Yeah, happy to give you a summary. We're encouraged not to include influencers of our responsibility. So it's supposed to be a real-time exercise of what would really happen. But we're happy to give you a summary of that. And we're not trying to preclude you or keep you from the knowledge, but what we want to do is you saw the picture of the folks sitting at a table. We want these folks, both operations, maintenance, and engineering, being given the scenario in real time as realistic as possible without outside influence. So that's why we try to keep it to like a real life scenario.
Okay, because if there's a flood or a big event, you're going to be calling every one of us. I guarantee it for some reason. So just factor us in.
Absolutely, you're definitely in the communications loop. But what these scenarios are trying to emulate is risks and then actions the agency takes to simulate those actions in our response.
Okay, did you want to make some more comments before
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, I too want to thank Tim. Great presentation as usual, but I also want to ask, Tim, if you don't mind, can we have Brian and then your representative from Schnabel come up?
Oh, yeah.
So since Tim's last presentation 5 years ago, we've hired a deputy dam safety engineer. That's Brian Perrin. Brian works with Tim. When I first started here at the agency, Tim was the chief dam safety engineer, but he was also doing projects. So I'm just going to make this up, Tim, but I think maybe 50% of the time was on dam safety and 50% was, I'm going to make one up, like building campgrounds or things like that. This dam safety requirement from FERC has evolved so much in the 8 years that I've been here that it's requiring 100% of Tim's time. And as you can see, he eats, sleeps, and breathes our facilities. And it also caused us to have to hire a deputy, and that's Brian. And Brian comes from DWR, right, Brian? Very competent engineer as well. And I just wanted to let you guys know and then let me also introduce Schnabel. And I don't know your name, sir. Okay, so Juan is a representative of Schnabel. They are performing our Part 12. They're the third party that we're required to hire, required to do a scope of work that FERC tells us what to do. At any rate, what I want to do is point out that you have an excellent team managing this risk. This is the biggest benefit asset, right? New Bullard's Bar is what allows us to do flood control and water supply, but it's also the biggest risk. We take it seriously. This risk started in 1970 when we filled the dam and hasn't stopped since. Unlike a powerhouse or a penstock or a tunnel, you can drain those, you can shut them down, you can take them offline, you can rebuild them, you can start from scratch, you can do whatever you want. The dam has been working, even in a low water year. It still has hundreds of feet of elevation of water behind it. You can't turn it off, you can't shut it down. It's always doing something, it's always working for us, it's always a risk. So you have a great team behind you. I wanted to, I've already reminded you all that I'm concerned about the cost slide that you saw and the increase in cost from, the Part 12 from 5 years ago or the Part 12 from 10 years ago. When I first got in the industry, you could get a Part 12 done, and remember I was at PG&E and these are smaller dams, so you could get a Part 12 done for about $50,000. It's not, it's the requirements by FERC, the increased requirements by FERC that are causing us to spend $1 million on a Part 12 inspection. I just wanted to be clear on that. The requirements here to bid out the actual Part 12, which we did, and Schnabel got awarded the bid. There used to be 5 to 10 firms here in California that do Part 12s. There's 2 or 3 now because these engineers are having to specialize in Part 12s or designate entire groups of engineers to specialize on this activity itself. The reason I'm bringing all this up is so that you know that, one, you're getting a lot of detailed information, and Director Fuhrer, I totally understand your questions and issues about the identifications of the risks and are these a reasonable thing to be designing towards. I think that's where you're going with that. But that's what we're up against. We have a severe or extreme high risk dam. What's our qualification here, Tim?
Yes, the state considers it an extremely high-risk dam.
Yeah. And we have to manage those risks, and you have a great team to do it. And I just wanted to ensure that you were aware of all the work that has evolved over the last several years and the team you have behind it. So, and the last item is happy to have a closed session to go over the critical energy infrastructure information. There is a lot that Tim withheld today that we're happy to present to you all in closed session.
I think we all would like to see that in closed session to see what causes us to be a, what'd you say, extreme high, not an extreme high risk, but high risk.
Higher risk.
Higher risk. Because I really don't want the public thinking that we're at high risk. I live right on the edge of the Yuba River, and my house would be the first one that would get hit by the wall of water. And I sleep fine at night, knowing you guys are up there inspecting it constantly and being ahead on everything. And also, I had a meeting in Camptonville yesterday and was able to drive over the dam. It's nice, the road work you guys did on it, smooth. And I can't ever drive over there without stopping and taking a couple of pictures. So if you guys all get a chance, just drive up there. It's chock full right now. It's beautiful. So thank you, Tim. Yes.
One comment there, Chair Messick. What Tim did conclude here, this goes back to the extreme high risk. First off, they determined we are suitable for and safe for continued operation. That is the threshold. You don't get, Tim did an excellent job, Tim did a good job, Tim did a suitable job. You get a suitable or not suitable. We are suitable for continued operation. So even though Tim showed the red square on that graph that we're in this kind of out of threshold area, what that's causing FERC to tell us to do is drive your risks into the acceptable area, but you're still suitable for operation, as opposed to a handful of dams in California that aren't suitable for operation and they don't have water behind them now, and they can't store water behind them now, and it's a significant issue. And when I go to Aqua like last week and I talk to folks that manage these dams, they're spending over $1 billion getting their dams to be suitable so they can hold back water. So I just want to put this into a category of we're safe, and that's the threshold. You don't get an A+, you get a satisfactory.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to move on to manager's report.
So speaking of the reservoir being full, it's 2.5 feet from complete fill, and we're slowly creeping up on 1,955 feet in elevation. There is a bit of snow left, and we keep seeing the snow melt come in, so we're increasing the elevation. Over the next several weeks, we will peak out close to 1,955. That's our strategy. That's what we do. It's a great water year. We're slightly over 100% normal year to date. The Power System Headquarters building is looking great. I went there 2 weeks ago. I was driving up the Colgate, just swung in for a few minutes. The team probably doesn't even know I was there. It looks like you could move in today. I don't know what is left to do, but maybe plug in some stuff and get some furniture in there, but it looks nearly done. So that's going well. The team, Tim mentioned the road repair over New Bullers Bar Dam is done and complete. So all the issues with traffic and that are done. It looks good. The team keeps planning for the Colgate tunnel outage this fall. So that's still a go at this point. There is a lot of stuff going on, even though the tunnel's not drained and we're not in construction. There is major effort going on in all the pre-planning and setup work for that. The mini hydro generator that's at the base of New Bullers Bar is currently out for annual maintenance. The Narrows 1, the smaller unit at Narrows, is coming up for annual maintenance in the next week or two. Otherwise, all the units are online and performing well. There were various minor outages with PG&E for transmission line switching. So you'll see in the report a bunch of planned outages. Those aren't our outages. Those are related to PG&E maintenance on their transmission lines. We become aware of those a few days ahead of time. We have to, modify our operation slightly and separate units sometimes for their maintenance. But that's all, I will say, well coordinated. It's relatively well coordinated. We're getting into the, I mentioned the snow melt. We're getting into the hot season. So we'll have a full New Bullards bar going into the, summer temperatures and potential generation opportunities. And we'll, hopefully have a good generation year based on the hydrology we had over the winter. We're starting to feel those temperatures this week. I think we'll be in the 90s. The last few items, since we haven't had a board meeting, I think, for 3 weeks, there's a lot here that I just need to read to you all. So here we go. We have a legal update. The communications and legal teamed up to lead a tour of New Bullards Bar and the Colgate Powerhouse on April 6th for the agency's outside water and environmental lawyers. The tour focused on agency water and power operations and crossover with the lawyers' work on our FERC relicensing efforts. To support upcoming construction projects, legal released a request for qualifications to 9 law firms for public works construction legal services. Responses are due May 19th, and I guess that was yesterday, and will be initially reviewed by legal and representatives from Power Systems and Resource Planning. Legal expects to have identified a top candidate firm by July 2025. The purpose here is to get an attorney that specializes in public works contracting, because we have major projects coming up, Arc Spillway, Nature Like Fishway, and the like, and we want to ensure that we are taking advantage and meeting all of the public agency contracting requirements in California. Human resources update. We held a board governance training and workshop for all Yuba County elected officials and executive staff on May 8th. We had a diverse group of over 30 participants from various boards and commissions attend. Dawn Ashton of MRG and Jack Hughes of Liebert Cassidy Whitmore facilitated the training and workshop that covered topics such as role clarifications, governing with unity, strategic oversight and planning, social media, electronic communications, privacy rights, the California Public Records Act, labor laws, and other topics. The workshop had attendees split into 4 groups where they worked through a real-life scenario that a board may face. The training and workshop fostered meaningful dialogue, shared best practices, and emphasized the importance of how a high-functioning board are the key to a thriving community. This collaborative effort highlighted Yuba Water's commitment to effective governance and continuous improvement. I wasn't able to attend. I was on a field tour, but I know a few of you attended, so thanks for participating in that. Communications update. There was a really well-done article in the Appeal Democrat about the agency's history and impact in the community. The reporter, Micah Yip, attended our special board meeting a few weeks ago and then got a tour of the project. And we generally appreciate that Micah took the time to really understand us and include the necessary context in the story. The Appeal also had a story about the South County Wastewater Infrastructure Project. There was significant coverage of our formalizing the Yuba River Resilience Initiative, including the Sacramento Bee, KFBK, YubaNet, Channel 13, the Sierra Sun Times, and a few other papers and radio stations around the country who picked it up. We were mentioned in an Appeal article about road work in Yuba County for our funding support, which supports the drainage associated with the project. We were also mentioned in their coverage of the announcement that Beale will be home to the new Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCA, readiness unit. That story was picked up by other media in the region as well. DWR included a reference to us in their announcement of vessel inspections at Orville, as we are preparing our plans to mirror their program in order to protect against the spread of golden mussels. John James was interviewed by the Water Education Foundation for a story in Western Water about FERO, Forecast Informed Reservoir Operations. That story will likely be out next month. John was also featured in the story Scripps put out about FERO as well. Joanna Lassard and I both had presentations at Aqua's Spring Conference last week. I spoke at the Northern California Water Association's Water Leaders Program on April 23rd. Kyle Morgado shared a presentation about the agency at a Sons in Retirement meeting a couple weeks ago, and Jackie Sillen presented to 9th graders at Yuba County Career Prep Charter School about water conservation. Sponsorships since we last reported out include the Cinco de Mayo Festival held May 4th, Marysville High's Fabrication Contest, where Dustin Eggleston and Trevor Riley, fellows on our crew, served as judges. Last weekend, we were sponsors of the Seroptimus Dinner in the Orchard, the Sheriff's Aerial Squadron When Pigs Fly Dinner, and the Kiwanis Fishing Derby. Upcoming sponsorships include the Peachtree Invitational Golf Tournament, the Brownsville Farmers Market, the Hallwood 4-H Dinner, and the Beale Air Show. Community Impact Update. On May 22nd, the Yuba Applied Research Center, which includes Yuba Water and Wheatland as members, is hosting a Cal Poly to Fork dinner. The purpose of the event is to forge a partnership with Cal Poly and the Research Center and to spread the word about the purpose and benefits of the Research Center. Anyone interested in attending should contact info@yubaresearch.org. Our next meetings are a regular board meeting and an ABP committee meeting on June 3rd. Sorry for the long-winded summary here, but we haven't met for 3 weeks and I had a lot going on. And what was put in front of me about 2 minutes before the beginning of this meeting is a great piece of information that I was totally unaware of, but Tyler Bird, our Information Systems Network Administrator, this is Tyler. This is the dude I call when I get locked out of the office. This is the guy that I call when I set off the alarm in the office. This is the guy that I call when I need something IT. Great guy. Had a successful kidney transplant yesterday. We want to send him our good wishes for a quick recovery.
Well, that's great information. Okay. We'll go into director's reports. Start down here with Wayne.
So I guess the week before last attended the Bay Delta tour put on by the Water Education Foundation. I certainly recommend it. I know some of you have been on it before, but honestly, it left me a little depressed about the whole state of the Delta. And there's so many competing interests. And none of them, I guess we've been messing with the Delta for 150 years or so, and everything we've done down there has, you know, been to the advantage of some interest and disadvantage to another interest, and it seems like we just keep going down that same path, and without without anybody able to just look at the big picture and try to make all the, I don't know what the right decisions are, but anyway, it left me a little down, but certainly more educated about the Delta and the whole water system in California.
Thank you. Charlie?
As you know, I've always been a big fan of trying to help the Delta situation. And salmon are the biggest criteria that takes our farmers' water. And I'm happy to say that our agency is working strongly to help mitigate something where the ocean people can do their fishing and the farmers can do their farming. And it would be a help to the Delta. And I want to commend Willie and his staff for things like the Nature Life Fishway and leveraging other things to make the Yuba Water Agency a leader in helping the Delta.
Great, thank you. Gary?
Yeah, I just want to echo some of Director Bishop's comments about the Bay Delta tour. Probably the most valuable tour from the Water Education Foundation and most applicable to many of the things that we do here at Yuba Water. So as mentioned, the needs in the Delta are extremely complex and between the different folks. And when I went in and took that tour the first time, I learned very quickly that my basic understanding of who's competing for what related to the Delta was way, way off base. And so it was extremely eye-opening. And if anyone on the board has not yet been on that tour, I'd encourage you to go next year. Try to put it on your calendar now so that you can make it. The board development workshop I attended, I believe Director Messick was also there with me, and I was appreciate all of staff's efforts on that, and I was really glad to see there's tremendous participation from a wide range of local boards, both electeds and staff, and so I was very impressed with the attendance at that event, as well as the quality of the event. And let's see, I was at Aqua last week. I did not have an opportunity to go to the panel that Jonah was on, but Willie's panel, and he did an outstanding job, no surprise there. And I also had the opportunity to tag team with him at the Inaugural Water Leaders program. And it was great to spend time with staff at Aqua, and that's it.
Thank you. Andy? Nothing? Rennick?
I got a couple things. So earlier this month, I was able to go to Cap, which is a group of 400 to 500 individuals throughout the region that go to Washington, D.C. and hope to bring funding home or drive home projects, at least encourage knowledge base of things that are going on in Northern California. So the group I was with was the Water Resources team. We met with congressional members about regional water projects. Most of them were on the Sacramento and American River, but things that affect us like FIRO, other people doing the same kind of things we're doing at Yuba-Water. But the cool part of it was a lot of the examples they were giving were Yuba-Water projects. So that's kind of we're ahead of the game when it comes to the Sacramento region. I was all excited because they were talking about a Folsom Lake Arc project, and I thought it was going to be an arc spillway. It wasn't. It's a water diversion from the Sacramento to the American River. But lots of good information, good networking with people that are in the same industry and crossing the same kind of problems that we're having, and steering the policy instead of letting the policy steer everybody. So that was very beneficial. And then I just wanted to ask if we could get a biomass facility update from Camptonville, because I've been reading about a struggling PG&E project that just kind of got defunded and returned $16 million. And it's a similar type of project. And I just want to hear what we have going on with our biomass plant. Thank you.
Seth? Nothing? Okay. I drove by the biomass area yesterday, and it's all cleared. There's no trees, so they've done all the dirt work. I think they're getting ready to start, hopefully, but yeah, it would be great to get an update. So I wore my baseball tie today because today's opening night of the HighWheelers here in Marysville. They really, Lon Hadamia, I don't know if he's the owner or part owner or what, but want to support Lon, and hopefully we can all get out there and pack the stadium tonight, see what they're all about. It's supposed to be a little higher caliber of teams than we've ever had. I wanted to thank the Water Agency for supporting my dinner, the When Pigs Fly for the Yuba-Sutter Sheriff's Aero Squadron. I think it was successful. Everybody seemed to have a good time. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but I wanted to thank Director Fear because he ran the Yuba Water Agency game, him and his wife, and then my son Thomas, who's out in the audience, took over for Seth and his wife. So we just have all great feedback from everything we did. So other than the auction maybe taking too long, but just wanted to thank the agency again on that. And I'm kind of jealous at our dinner. Sammy won the basket for the Bishop's Pumpkin Farm. Wayne, thank you for your donation. I was distracted, so I couldn't bid against her. Otherwise, I would have been buying that. So with that, we will go into closed session after a 10-minute break.
Recording stopped.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
For 70 years, we have flown at 70,000 feet. Beale Air Force Base invites you to the Beale Air and Space Expo, celebrating a legacy of reconnaissance. Witness an astonishing lineup of aerial performances on June 7th and 8th. Free tickets are available at BealeAirShow.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow. With in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties.
Yuba-Sutter done alive. It's the truth that comes through. Yuba-Sutter done alive. It's the truth that comes through.